Hey folks, today's May 11th, and it's easy to lose track of days and worry about where your provision is going to come from, where your needs will be met. And it's very important that we do not allow the thing that brings us the provision we need in a time of need to become our captivity. And you'll say, what do you mean by that? That makes no sense. None at all. I prayed for a job and I got this job. I prayed for, a home, and boom, I got this home like real quick. Yeah, we've been there. We've been in those situations ourselves. But there's a precedent about allowing your provision to become your captivity. And we have to go way back in history to dig up an old story from the Old Testament to illustrate this to you. Some of you remember from Sunday school and vacation Bible school, Joseph and his coat of many colors. His father favored him the most, and so he got this fancy coat, and he had all these dreams. He told his brothers. Then his brothers decided, we're going to kill the kid. We're sick and tired of it. We're going to kill him. He's too arrogant. And then one brother was like, no, we can't kill him. Our dad will be devastated. Let's sell him to this caravan of people. We'll sell him as a slave. So they concocted this whole story, this whole lie, and they killed an animal, put blood on the brand new coat, that his cloak with all the colors his dad made him. These slave traders hauled him off to Egypt and sold him to a guy named Potiphar. And, Potiphar was high up in the Egyptian government, and Joseph found favor in everything he did. No matter his circumstance, he always found favor. He found favor in Potiphar's house, and then when he got falsely accused of rape by the Potiphar's wife, and he wound up in prison, he found favor in prison. Then he found favor with the king, and on it went. And he worked up all these levels till he's the second highest ranking man in all of Egypt. And anything he said went. There was no questions asked about it. The king trusted him explicitly. Now you might say, how was that provision in captivity for Joseph? How was that a bad thing? It wasn't for him. It was a good thing for him. It was a good thing for the people of Egypt. See, a famine came to Israel, and they were going to starve to death. So Joseph's father sent some of the brothers to Egypt to get food. And the whole story played out, and then the whole family came to Egypt to stay. And here's where provision became captivity. The people of Israel came to Egypt because there was provision in the form of food and housing. They weren't going to starve to death. They weren't going to die of thirst and dehydration. They're going to still be able to farm. So they stayed in Egypt, and they stayed in Egypt too long. And I say they stayed in Egypt too long because they became slaves to the Egyptians. A new Pharaoh came into place who didn't know Joseph and didn't know the Israelites that came there seeking refuge. And he made them slaves. So for several hundred years, the Israelites were slaves to Egypt. They had left the promised land, come to a land of provision, and became captives there. They couldn't leave. Now they had a chance. There's a chance when the famine turned that they could have gone back. That part's not in the Bible, but you study history and world events, you'll understand that during the time frame that they were in Egypt, living off the provisions of Joseph and Pharaoh, that the famine in the promised land had turned, and they could have gone back, but they chose to stay because they had it so good. They were comfortable. They became complacent, so they stayed. That complacency and that comfort led to slavery, and they were stuck in slavery. And it was a very painful, long drawn out ordeal for them to get out of slavery. So for you, how does that apply to you? So you pray for a job, God gives you a job. You get to that job, and you like the people there. Kind of frustrated with your job at times, not really growing, not really advancing. You'd have little opportunities here and there, but just enough to entice you to stay. You're comfortable with the people you work for. You like them. You got a great relationship. You're complacent. You don't want to leave. Everything seems good. But that may not be where you're supposed to be. Same with a home. You know, you get ready to lose your house, or maybe you're renting and the landlord comes by and says, hey, I'm going bankrupt, or hey, I'm losing my house. I need to move into this one. You got to get out. And you got 30 days to find a new place to live. Well, you pray and other people pray, and boom, in 5 days you find a place and you're out in 20. But that was a temporary provision. That place may have not been where you were supposed to stay. It's just a stepping stone. See, we pray for these things, and then the answers come, and then some answers come in the way we think it should look, but that's just a short-term answer. That's a step. The long-term, the further out answer may not look like what we perceive it looks, so we ignore it and we pass up that opportunity. And we end up being captive in the situation that was supposed to be temporary. Jobs are one of the greatest examples. We'll get a job and we like it, and we become complacent, become very comfortable there. We don't want to leave there. And that job was quite possibly just a place to propel you somewhere else. But because you were not willing to leave, because you did not want to give up the temporary relationship with the people you worked for, you did not want to give up that temporary comfort, and you stayed too long. And because you stayed too long, you missed that next opportunity. And maybe a second opportunity came and you missed it. You weren't willing to leave and take it. And you became a captive to your situation by choice. See, we can't allow ourselves to be complacent and stay someplace that we probably shouldn't be long term. And getting out of there may be painful. May require that you get laid off. May require you get fired. It may require that the job move and you can't move with it. It may require an illness on your part that you can no longer do the job and you have to quit. Now, multiple scenarios that could play out as to what it would take to get you out of that position, to move you to another one where you can be pushed towards your calling, towards your destiny. See, people are like sheep. We'll get complacent. We'll want to stay in one place. A sheep will stay in one place and eat the grass till it's nothing but dirt. Then they'll nuzzle and suck up the dirt, and they'll eventually die because they ate the dirt. So a shepherd's got to move the sheep from the area they ate down to nothing to an area where there's green pasture so they can stay healthy. Same thing with us. Why do you think the Bible calls us sheep? And why do you think they call the Father Yahweh the Good Shepherd? It's because we're stupid. We will stay in one place till all the provision, all the nutrients, and our full purpose there is gone. But we will stay there and stay there and stay there and become a captive to that area, and quite possibly to lead to spiritual death. It could even lead to a physical death because you stayed in some place longer than you were meant to be. Guys, when you pray for provision, you pray for a new job. Pray that you have the discernment and the wisdom to know when it's time to leave and go somewhere else. That you have the discernment to understand that this is a temporary or a permanent position you're in. Relationships are the same way. Not every relationship is permanent. But you can find yourself captive to a situation because you weren't willing to give up a friendship that was actually very toxic for you. But in the short term, it was very good. But because you allowed it to draw out to a long-term situation, it became caustic. It became very harmful to your mind and to your spirit. So pray for the discernment and pray for the wisdom to know when the situation you're in, the time is up and it's time to move on. And also, pray for the discernment and pray for the wisdom and pray for the strength and the ability that you will be able to leave and leave all the things behind that made you comfortable, and that you will have the boldness to move forward into a new future. So keep that in mind as things change and we get to go back to work and some of our jobs aren't there anymore. I encourage you, just don't be complacent. Don't let your provision become your captivity.